well. Hello everybody, thank you first of all for having me here. I'm very happy for this. My name is Parissa Haghirian. I work at Sophia University in Tokyo. And as you may realize, I'm not Japanese, which is something some people are a bit surprised about here. What I'm going to do today is to talk about a topic that's a little bit different from what you have so far. I am teaching management in Japan, and I'm specialized in Japanese management. And what I do is I work at Sophia University, and I will introduce the faculty, or what we do with the faculty, a little bit to you. And what special project we have started to increase cross-cultural awareness of our business students. At the beginning, at the end of this presentation, I will show you a little film that my students put that on the topic, and I hope that will be enjoyable to you. What I would like to do first is talk a little bit about our faculty. It's quite a special faculty in Japan. First of all, Sophia was the first English-speaking program in Japan. It was founded right after World War II, and our faculty is the, more or less, now we have some competitors, English faculty in Japan, and we have a long tradition of teaching in English, and we have a long tradition of teaching for intercultural students. One reason is that in Japan, getting into Japanese university is a very difficult thing to do, especially if you're not in a Japanese high school system. You can hardly pass the entrance examination. So a lot of Japanese kids who grow up overseas, or Japanese children who have a foreign parent, are not easily getting into Japanese universities. And our faculty, because it's in English, has special requirements or different requirements. So we have always been the place where people go if they have a very cross-cultural international background. And that has been a very long tradition. And you can see how our faculty works. We have now a lot more, including our exchange students. We have thousands of students, and virtually from every country. So I have an Iranian background, but I cannot speak Iranian really well, but I have two students who translate everything what I need to have translated. Our students can speak from Urdu to every kind of language. It's really quite fascinating. The point is that we are very special inside the university, so there has been some issues integrating us into the rest of the university, which is a very traditional Japanese place. And we have a very special culture inside the university, trying to really live the Jesuit spirit, and I have to say I'm very impressed on how this works. But when we are working there, a lot of our students, because they have a very, let's say, special bicultural, bilingual background, have some problems with that. So over the past years we realized that, and this is something that we didn't address in the beginning. So of course there's classes talking about cross-cultural issues, about prejudice, stereotypes, and we realized that our students have very different feelings about their own cultural identity, how they integrate in Japanese society if they are only half Japanese, how they integrate into Japanese society if they grew up overseas, how they integrate into foreign societies, and these are things that we wanted to address. And when we are, because we're a liberal arts college, we also teach sociology and culture. All the other departments our colleagues have started to do this too. And finally, we have decided that in the business faculty, or the business part of our faculty, we also need to develop some possibilities for students to identify themselves more with their own heritage, and on the other hand, also develop more self-confidence when it comes to cultural issues. So what we did is we developed a number of experiments on cross-cultural aspects. There are experiments, so we're doing something new every year. It's more or less successful. Some of the students call this our crazy random projects, but usually we gain a lot of knowledge on how to deal with cross-cultural issues, and I personally think that students benefit quite well. I'm going to introduce now 2 or 3 projects that we did, and I will also show all this on all of the projects. So what we're trying to do is increase students' cross-cultural skills and awareness, and also strengthen their self-confidence when it comes to culture. Yeah? So not only Japanese students, also foreign students who are in Japan, and one way to do that was to help them explain, or have them explain cultures to others. That's the idea. Another issue that we wanted to integrate here is modern media, or new media, new technology, that is quite important for the student. And also, what we wanted to do is to prepare them to work in a multicultural environment. Most of our students do get jobs as mediators in cross-cultural companies or in multinational companies, and these are quite stressful jobs, especially after a while when you constantly have to negotiate or kind of bridge between, let's say, Western and Eastern culture. Sounds quite exciting at the beginning, but this is quite a difficult task to do if you have to do it every day. So one idea was to kind of make sure that they learn this, they actually think about that while they're studying, and they prepare themselves better for the future. The first project we did is a series of projects that I started already 10 years ago when I was working in Europe. I did a lot of experimental teaching then, and I also did a lot of evaluation of teaching. And at that time, virtual classrooms or video conferencing was very much in vogue. And I also did one project like this in Sophia. And at that time, we actually did talk about sustainable development. And we had a project connected with a classroom in Austria, in my home country. And the students had to work together with Austrian students via the internet and develop a research project in Japan and in Austria at the same time. And finally, they had to present it to all the participants. It was quite a good experience, I think. The problem was that everything worked well until the final video conference where everything broke down, and it took us 3 hours to kind of establish the program and the connection. So the whole thing was not as successful as expected, but I think the process itself was quite good. And the problem is, however, of course, students don't meet in person. Yeah? But you might all know that. I think a lot of you have done similar things like this before. Here you can see some photographs. So for the students, one of the ideas was that students would work in a multicultural environment later, and they will also work in multinational firms where they will need to know about these technologies every day. This class was a graduate class, and the students were not Japanese, but for them it was actually quite easy to do these projects because they came to Japan to study in our program. It was not related to their own culture, so it was kind of a classic management course using modern media. And finally we decided this is not enough. It might be a bit better to help students to work on topics that they need to be, let's say, a little bit more precise about, and that might be more challenging for them personally. And we started a number of other projects. The first one was a book project in my Japanese management class. I teach a course on Japanese management every year, which is quite an interesting course because half the students are Japanese, who are basically not the classic type of Japanese students, but they grew up overseas. And the other half of the students are Western exchange students. And we meet a lot of prejudice in this class. So the Western students know what Japanese are like. The Japanese want to tell everybody what they're not like. So it's kind of a little, it's quite challenging to teach that class. And the first project in that course was the students had to write book chapters instead of the seminar papers. Something I do not recommend if you're a professor, because I edited this book for 9 months of my life, and I will never do anything like this again. But for the students, it was a really successful project. Yesterday I met one of the Filipino students who was in the project as well, and he was very proud of the outcome. What they had to do is describe Japanese management from a Japanese perspective, so they had to go into with Japanese team members around Tokyo, investigate the course, and write chapters that are, let's say, not filled with prejudice and not talking about the Japanese, how they're usually seen from the outside. I think for a lot of students this was a very intense learning experience. For the Japanese students on the one hand, because they had to explain their cultures in words that basically in their own words, and they want to make sure that people get it right, and for foreign students who had to really deal with their prejudice when investigating Japanese management in Japan. This project was followed by a podcast project where students had, instead of papers, had to develop audio files. We put all these files on iTunes, you can see that here, so if you're interested, you can download them. And we had a number of topics, every student got one topic, and he or she had to investigate that and do a video file. It's all online, available, and it's been very successful so far. I think in the first year about 5,000 people downloaded the whole series, and the idea was that we also share, let's say, a good idea or positive idea about Japanese management with the outside world. And finally, what we did is a video project. This is last year's project, and in this case, students were asked to prepare videos on Japanese management. They could choose any topic they like. The only requirement was it must be addition to video, which is something that is kind of important, and it should fulfill the requirements of YouTube, where we finally want to put them. We haven't put them online yet, but this is our plan for the future. And what we did now is we started a little assessment. It's not been a very professional evaluation yet, but we did some exploratory research asking students and all the people involved on what they felt about doing this. The learners liked the part, apart from the fact that it was very work intensive. This is of course something that you usually ignore. Students complain about that because they will always say things work intensive, so I kind of took that feedback out. But they said they developed more sensitivity towards intercultural presentations and presentation styles. It's been a good experience for them to investigate Japanese management from a neutral perspective without going in with a lot of prejudice. And of course what they did like after they got used to